Hi, I am Irina Webster, your host for Inspiring Also TV. And today I am going to interview Bill Silvester.
How do you do?
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
Bill has written a book, Down Under Magic. So Bill, tell me about your book.
Well, it's an autobiography, but it's also a history of scuba diving in Australia, because in the early days it actually really kicked off in Victoria. In the early days we had speared all the fish around and we found our reefs being denuded, and we decided that we needed to take up scuba diving. So it is a history of my life, autobiography, where I came from England in World War II, at the end of World War II, and it shares the experiences that I had in those times, and also the formation of one of the first skin diving clubs, Black Rock Skin Divers, and then the development into one of the earliest diving academies, which was known as Associated Divers Academy. But it actually is a lot more than that. What we tried to do is to portray a really unique history. Nobody that I know of has actually written the very beginnings of scuba diving in this country. I'm lucky enough to still be around to be able to share it, and it's not only just for myself and my family, but for people who are interested in history in general. And one of the things that that we got into in the early days, which unfortunately would probably put me behind bars right now, is that we had so much freedom. And we decided we needed some money to buy for our boats, and we used to go down to Port Phillip Heads, and we would actually plunder shipwrecks. We used explosives. We nearly lost our lives on a number of occasions. These adventures are portrayed in the book. I think that people would probably be on the edge of their seats with some of the stuff that we did there. But through it all, we were able to write a lot of rules for diving, some of the first dive notes ever written for teaching divers. Our dive school started off in late 1950s. We're teaching in clubs. Then it went into a semi-professional state where we did a deal with Foy and Gibson's in Melbourne, no longer there, and they had a supplier called White Stag. White Stag gave us 12 sets of gear, and that's how we started Associated Divers Academy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you were actually one of the pioneers of scuba diving in Australia.
Exactly.
So it's everything in this book.
That's right. Everything that happened in the early days. This covers the history from my early beginnings of my life through to 1970-72. And some of the most amazing places that we've been to, such as Deal Island out in Bass Strait. Again, another life-changing event, which could have been life-destroying as well. And that's all it's all in the book. It's one of the most interesting things about that we experienced was actually teaching the boyfriend of one of the relatives of Harold Holt. And Harold Holt lost his life at Cheviot Bay in the late 60s, and by coincidence my partner and I, David Perry, were actually diving in that area the week before.
He actually was one of the prime ministers.
He was prime minister. That was when he lost his life. And what we've written up is that story, and also our belief, suppositions of what actually happened to Prime Minister Holt. In the book there are pictures of myself with Harold Holt, so I had that connection, if you like. And it was one of the most tragic events, if you like, in the early political history of Australia in the 1960s. So as far as we know, I don't think any other prime ministers in our history have been drowned. People have often said to me, what did happen to Harold Holt? So in the book I've written what we believe happened to Harold Holt. He certainly wasn't taken by Russians at that stage. He wasn't taken by mini subs. He wasn't sort of kidnapped and carried away. he made a simple error of judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and that has been written up in the book.
That's amazing.
Mm.
So it's only one book you have written, or you have much more books?
Well, way back in 1974, we introduced a book called Down Under Scuba Diver. That was a manual on diving training.
Mm.
A much more advanced version came out in the 80s, about 85, which was called The Magic of Scuba. And that was a whole dossier, if you like, on how to dive, where to dive, how to keep alive, what things to watch out for. And that was over 300 pages. We talked about how to take underwater pictures. We talked about marine biology. We spoke about dangerous fish life and things like that. That book's been out of print a long time. So, and then another book which hopefully...
That would be actually a very interesting book, because you teach people step by step
Exactly.
how to do scuba diving.
That's correct. Yeah,
It
we
would
did
be very interesting for many people.
Yeah, well, we did sell about we sold over 20,000 copies of that.
Oh.
The first one was in excess of 40,000 copies, but it's a long time since I've written a book. But since
I think you should re-edition it, release new
yeah,
edition.
we need a lot of work because equipment's changed. You're right. A lot of the stuff, the basic fundamentals don't change, but the equipment has changed, and it could be done. We should talk to you about that sometime. I've got a copy. I'll send it down to you, and you can see. But this is really a book which we hope that people will read and be captivated by, something that they'll put themselves in the position that I am in the many places within the book, and wonder what's going to happen next.
Oh, definitely.
That's
This
what we
book
hope
will
to.
inspire
What's going to happen
many
next?
people.
We hope so. Yeah. So that's the way that we've gone about the book, and the other one we're working on, which we've been talking about to you guys, is the children's book, because my love of the sea has been absolutely with me for 50 years. You could say more than 50 years. And I wanted to teach young children, the ages between the 8 and 12, about creatures in the sea, to teach them that the fishes of the sea have personalities, that they react in different ways, even within the species. And we call that, we've actually called it Mr. Gloop and the Adventures of the Golden Dolphin. And what we've done there, we've got a little magic story where a dolphin takes two little children for a ride under and out over the ocean and into the Julian Rocks at Byron Bay. And that one we hope to bring out next couple of months. And that's a story that kids will, we think, enjoy. So far, the test cases with our grandkids, they love it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how many books altogether you have written? Like,
well, this is the third book. Mr. Gloop's the fourth book, and when this has been, we got this one underway and people are buying it. I'll go back to finish my maybe my last book, which is the history of northern New South Wales and the development of the Instructors Association. And the dive shop that we had in Byron Bay from 1973 to 1986. And that's another story in itself, because Byron Bay has gone from a nothing place to one of the most backpacker known places in the world.
Oh yeah, it is very famous.
For diving, for surfing, and I think it's better nowadays, but it's always a question of opinion, isn't it? But it's a very, very beautiful spot. And we'll be writing about the adventures and things that we had in there, and maybe some of the trips that we did over to diving in the Swains Reef, in the Barrier Reef, and up in New Guinea, other places that we really had a real ball at.
Yeah, it looks like you're a very prolific writer, and especially in the area, very narrow topic you write about.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, you write about things that you know and you know very well. So I haven't written any sort of novels of any other description outside of specialising in the underwater field. But we'll leave that to the reader to judge.
Yes.
I just hope that they will pick it up. I wrote this with the idea of this being a collector's item, something that you would keep in your library,
Oh,
that
definitely.
in years to come, in generations to come, it's recorded, it's there.
Mhm.
As I said,
Oh,
nobody's
yes.
done that.
It's
Nobody's
very
done that.
interesting topic, and many people interested in it.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah,
so.
and not very many people write about it. And you are,
Very few.
yeah,
Very few.
you are the one of writers
That's
who are
right.
actually
That's right.
passionate about
Yeah.
this topic.
Certainly
I
am.
love it.
Yeah, certainly am.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing, Bill. So, Bill, if people want to contact you, how they can do it?
Well, they can do it through our own email address.
What's your email address?
BILSIL at swiftdsl.com.au. Of course, it can be made available through inspiringauthors.com.
People can, if anyone wants to buy your
Yes.
book,
Yes,
so they can go to
inspiringauthors.com.
Inspiring Bookshop.
Okay.
Inspiringbookshop.com.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for correcting me on that. Inspiringbookshop.com. Right.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
It was nice to talk to you, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's lovely to
My
meet up with
pleasure.
you guys now.
My pleasure.
Right.